But how is it with the overall emulation performance? Yeah, I must say that when it comes to the FPS and the way how everything sounds, I'm quite surprised how good this is. But we do have a combination of turbo function here, so that's kind of cool. And all the sounds back here. Pressing select and start. There is no aspect ratio, you cannot change anything out if you want to, but that's actually how it works. So what is a little bit of a bummer when you're getting into some emulators like Super NES, it's completely unfreaking playable. And that's kind of a bummer, because this is a system that can run easily on a device like this. And this is a great case what happens when it comes to Chinese products that you're getting when you're going to get overall mixed performance. At this point I'm already used to it, because for me it's always like quite negative, thinking what's the next thing to mess up? And this is one of those answers. Super NES is absolutely unplayable. Doesn't matter what game I'm booting up. Last time I even booted up a game that completely resetted the system itself. Absolutely a lot of shenanigans. But let's move into the Mega Drive part and see how that actually works. I do have the feeling that the audio is messed up, and I mean, there is no stereo speaker in here. And we're grabbing a certain coin, you can just hearing not all of the ring sounds are there. But the overall FPS, so far I don't see a lot of screen tearing going on. So when it comes to the overall gameplay, I'm quite surprised how good it runs. I always do wonder, say, why are you not slapping like $5 more on it and make this thing perfect? But okay, next up, let's take a close look at one of my favorite games to play on my Game Boy Classic. And when I say that, I have noticed when you're pressing left and right, you have sometimes an input of pressing down. You need to be very careful with this D-pad. So when it comes to this particular game, he can see like I have a lot of problems pressing down, but also pressing right at the same time. So this D-pad is absolutely horrible. It's a kind of also of it's like absolutely a little bit of a bummer, because that is not necessary. So of course it's great that they implemented a Switch joystick look-alike without the click. Now we can play, but still, oh man, it's quite difficult. I need to get used to this craziness. Oh man, oh, so annoying. But okay, so there is so much cool stuff to can play on this thing, including some Bomberman. And it runs pretty damn great. So that's always like a bummer with these things, that why does one particular thing run pretty damn horrible. But if you just have a game like this, the D-pad does not ruin the fun at all. So it's also depending what kind of games you actually want to play. The next system I wanted to try out is some Game Boy Advance. And so far so good. All of the Game Boy systems seems to be working and emulating just fine. And if you're just into a system like that, or systems, this is absolutely great to revisit your old games, even besides it has a very horrible D-pad. I really don't notice it when it comes to Alien Hominid, because you're just shooting left and right. All the buttons have been mapped perfectly, matching the original Game Boy layout. Man, I cannot really stop playing this. This is so much fun. Oh boy. Let's make a save, by the way, so I can continue later on. Here we go. Okay, very good. So loading up the Neo Geo emulator, it will take a little bit longer where all the other games instantly load. We need to have a quick load of the emulator and the certain files that are needed to boot up the game. But also here, very nice performance. Because you're basically shooting only a couple of angles in this game, it's not going to be an issue whatsoever. So I already noticed maybe that when adjusting the volume, this works really smooth. When in previous models or previous handhelds, we had this very strange thing going on. The way it went from like 20% of the audio all the way up to 70 instantly. So I think they did a great job with that too. Take consideration when it always comes to MAME, we have some limitations. We cannot run a certain game like Killer Instinct. Okay, the button mapping are very strange. Great audio, good overall performance, and MAME seems to be running just fine on this freaking thing. Another thing they completely not messed up this time is the AV out. So with older models, let's say the X series, we need to have a lot of struggles. We need to plug it in, go to the menu, change out what kind of output you want to have. You don't need this. It automatically detects it, and if you have any problems, you go over here to what kind of television you're having. You can just switch to PAL if you want to. Let's see what happens for fun. Yeah, he doesn't like that doing me. Yeah, okay, there we go. For here, it doesn't make any difference. But I think it's pretty damn sweet. So you can just plug it in. If you're finding the extra controller one, you can even use it like a game system. But when you're going to give the device a boot up with the cable attached, you see nothing seems to be working instantly. It takes a long time for it actually boots up. And the overall image quality, well, it's okay. But one thing I do notice where the emulation of the MAME already mentioned worked great, it's quite weird that the audio isn't really loud with this particular emulator. I unplugged the cable a couple of times, but somehow it doesn't get any improvement. So if you're going to be finding this particular handheld with a controller, I think that is going to be absolutely cool. Because how freaking awesome is if you're going to bring this thing with you, going to plug in a cable and a freaking controller, and you can just actually play off your favorite games like this. So where the last time it froze into the save function, and honest thing I've noticed, if you're going to be in the emulator itself, going to be plugging this thing in and out, it doesn't really like doing that. So in my opinion, it's a little bit of a messy when it comes to the overall audio and visual experience for the TV out, but if it's going to be booting up, if you're going to be plugging in from the start, no problem whatsoever. And I think it's a very overall cool performance with some minor hiccups. Okay, so the next emulator, I already noticed that like with MAME that we do have the problem that we don't have the right volume audio. Yeah, and that is always some of these things they completely mess up. Another thing is kind of weird that we're having the jump on the shoulder button. That's also kind of strange, to be honest. But it's not the biggest problem, of course. The audio, that is an issue. If you're going to be plugging it in and unplugging it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't fix the issue. So even from, let's say, the main menu on, if you're going to boot up emulators, you will notice some problems.